enjoy that which is considered to be an absolute right for peoples around the world. Freedom to live in a country of our own, just like everyone else. I think it's definitely a national spirit, what we described as impatience. Definitely the younger generation is fully aware of this as well, and it's there. I fear what goes fast, unfortunately, is of the wrong variety. There are a lot of things that are happening. Just about most things that are of a destructive nature happen, at least, particularly given this national disposition of ours, to look like they're going too fast. What we really need to do is to ensure that we create an environment with the help of the international community in which exactly the opposite would obtain, for sure.
Thank you very much indeed. I have another question down here. If you can keep your hand up, and we'll get a microphone. Microphone 4 to my friend who's sitting here. Keep your hand up. And if you can again let us know who you are, where you're from.
Assalamu alaikum. Dr. Nahad Tahir, CEO of Gulf One Bank. My question is to Prince Turki. Prince Turki, you know how much I respect you, and I wish you permit me to comment something. I have a concern about the understanding or misunderstanding of alliances that some of our international partners coming here today looking for Saudi Arabia and the GCC as a wallet only, that we have a lot of sovereign funds, a lot of things that would like us to invest abroad. Yes, we do want to go with them abroad, but do you agree with me that we have our internal problems and we have a big funding gap despite the huge oil money coming in? We have poverty, we have unemployment, we have our social problems. When we have responsibility towards our people, being an oil-based economy will never solve our problem. So what I want here to ask you, do you think alliances should means not only coming here and advising and taking fees, but also investing intelligent money, that we need international experience to participate with our investment and to create value, create jobs for our people? Otherwise, we're having a sleeping volcano. Thank you very much.
They don't get any easier, do they, Your Royal Highness?
Well, let me say I have as much respect for you as you have for me. And when I was ambassador in the United Kingdom and the United States, one of my briefs from my superiors was to engage with the United Kingdom and Ireland and the United States to increase the amount of investments that comes from them into Saudi Arabia. And those times when I was there were at the very beginning of the increase in oil revenues that began to pour into Saudi Arabia at that time, and that have continued since then. You're absolutely right. We have to bring people to work with us, put their money where their mouths are, and invest in our economies. But as I keep mentioning in my discussions, the world today is a multi-connected world where a dollar that comes from the US or the UK or any other country and is invested in Saudi Arabia in one business or another ends up affecting a situation or an employee in China or in India or in Africa or in other places, and vice versa. A Saudi company or government that invests in a business in China, for example, will find that perhaps the manufacturing of that business will be exported to places like the United States and the UK and Germany and other parts of the world. So we have to keep in mind that it is not just simply a matter of us having wallets full of cash and somebody coming in to steal that cash from us. The world today is different from what it was 40 years ago. And it is thanks to the growing young people amongst us here, particularly the Saudis, who have not only devoted some of their lives to learning skills and know-how, but also who are engaged in entrepreneurship and business activity to make that wallet as a means of acquiring skills and know-how, but also being productive and helpful in giving services and goods to other people. Oil no longer makes up the sum of our GDP in Saudi Arabia. It is, as I understand it from economists, and I'm not one of them, it has come down from nearly 80% to something like below 40% now. That means that other alternatives are taking over from oil as a means of income for the average Saudi, and we should encourage that. The more we can do that, the better for all of us.
But it's a two-way street. I mean, when you were in America, forget the United Kingdom, but that whole post-Soviet Union debate of détente was about peaceful coexistence. 40 years ago, there were raiding parties. Of that, there's no doubt at all. Do you sense now that that new contract, as it were, which I think my friend is referring to, is clearly understood by people like you and leaders in the kingdom? Is it also universally understood in the Western capital world?
Well, let me put it to you this way. If there is an American or a European or a Japanese or any other businessman who comes to Saudi Arabia today simply seeking to acquire cash for a service or for any other product, he will be surprised by what other things his Saudi counterpart will ask of him. Not only in terms of training and providing markets, but also exchange of goods as well. This is the understanding that I have of some of my friends who are involved in the business community. Those who seek to steal money will find a much more difficult place and situation than perhaps they did some time ago.
But alliances of equality are the source of the value we're talking about today.
Very much so.
Yeah. Your Royal Highness, thank you very much indeed. Can I just bring in, and then I'll come back over here again, because I have seen you, but I've also now seen a hand on this side, which I do want to involve as well. So again, microphone, I can't see the number, 6. Again, would you let us know who you are and where you're from? And a short question, because I've only got about 4 minutes left.
My name is Rabia Abdullah Hershey. I've had the pleasure of living here in Saudi Arabia more than 36 years. I have one request of all 3 gentlemen. Please make a clear avenue available for people who love and who've cried for your people to improve and give from their skills and their resources. We're not all big businessmen. Some of us are very skilled, developed intellectuals. I challenge you to make this possible.
President, you talked earlier on about wanting to open up avenues. You cited tourism, you cited wood, I think, metallurgy were amongst the issues that you talked about. Here is also an appeal for, as it were, an intellectual trade, educational trade. You would welcome this invitation, people to come to Bosnia-Herzegovina and to work and cooperate to develop your country and to reciprocate?
Well, I think it's happening already. Yeah, okay. I can see it today. As His Highness the Emir has said already, we see a lot of young people. Something is changing. And whether we like it or not, it is going to happen. And it is happening. And to tell you the truth, that is the base of my optimism. More and more people, because of technology, and this is the good part of the technology, of the technological development, is that more and more people share in the decision-making process. The structure is not like it used to be in this world, a sharp, a pyramidal structure. it's more horizontal now, so we have a less vertical world today. And yes, intellectuals are already talking to each other, regardless of the culture, regardless of everything else. And I believe, I happen to believe, it is going to be not the loss of identity, it is going to enrich and ennoble different cultures, because the cultures now can mirror one another, and that is what enriches them. And this is what technology of today offers, and that is why I think that this will be a more democratic world, more intellectual in the positive, and if you like, populist way, the way I see it. It's not the elite world anymore. It's sharing what we have on the mass base, and that's what makes me optimistic about the future.
Mr. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, it is incumbent upon us to do everything we can to make avenues open. Intellectuals, businessmen, and businesswomen, indeed. I mean, to be absolutely clear. What I wanted to do was actually to add to the remarks by His Royal Highness in connection with the question asked about what to do with the money and related issue of the manner in which countries with surplus funds may be looked at. Of course, I mean, there are two components to this, two dimensions. One is investment. Investors make their own choices and decisions on the basis of objective criteria. Investors want to make money, and it's the job of those in government and those with something to do about that to create the environment that is conducive to investors to come in. There are elements of this environment about which not much can be done, at least in short term, like, for example, overall high degree of political and security risk, particularly where I come from, but in the region more generally. That is why, pursuit of stabilization and stability in the region is very important to improve on that. But apart from investment, which is important, this is at least in part what this forum is about, to try to promote that. There is the other aspect of capital flow, which is aid. I need to say something about that as well. Aid,
very briefly, if you do say.
Okay. Aid is also a form of investment.
Sure.
If looked at in the broader context of what's it's supposed to accomplish. But there, in order to provide the necessary safeguards to ensure that it is indeed viewed as commercial investment, aid should be provided in the context and also to countries that do all they can to help themselves, meaning in the context of good governance frameworks, and to governments that actually provide for the welfare of their own people in the context of clean, honest, and corruption-free governments. And I think that's the way in which the bridge and the connection can be made. Thank you.
Okay. So they're all going to have a tough time when they come to Bethlehem. There were no easy deals.
Well, yeah, no, thank you.
Do you mind if I don't put that specific question to you, sir? Because I think you've already addressed it on your previous questions. But if you do wish, very briefly, because I'm just being signalled from behind that we're behind schedule.
Very briefly, I will say that whenever I'm challenged by a lady, I always surrender.
Right. On that